Vladimir Putin, once again, is warning the West about the rising threat of nuclear war. Mr. Putin said that the nuclear threat is growing again, but the Russian Federation will not use nuclear weapons first. This is an article from Interfax, and he goes on to say in here that Russia will not be the first to use nuclear weapons as it considers them as a means of protection. And that was coming from Russian President Vladimir Putin. The threat of nuclear war, you're right, such a threat is growing. What a sin to hide, Putin said during a meeting of the Human Rights Council. Now, about the fact that Russia will not use the first under any circumstances, if it does not use the first under any circumstances, then it will not use the second either, because the possibilities of using it in the event of a nuclear strike on our territory are very limited, he added. And he went on to say that the nuclear weapons are viewed by Russia precisely as a defense. Our strategy for the use of means of protection, namely as protection, we consider weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons. It is all built around the so-called retaliatory strike. When we are struck, we strike back, Mr. Putin said. Now, Russia's nuclear forces are more advanced than anywhere else in the world, but Moscow has no intention of branding or brandishing, as another article says, nuclear weapons, he said. We have not gone crazy. We are aware of what nuclear weapons are. We have these tools, and they are in a more advanced and more modern form than any other nuclear country. Today, this is obvious fact, he said at a meeting with the members of the President's Human Rights Council. We are not going to brandish this weapon like a razor running around the world, but of course, we proceed from the fact that it exists, Mr. Putin said. So, in this particular meeting that he had with his Human Rights Council there in Russia, Rick, there's more to this story than what Interfax had as well. Basically, he's making the defense, you know, we're not going to be the first to use nuclear weapons. But hidden in that, in other statements, he's saying we aren't the first to use nuclear weapons. The U.S. used nuclear weapons first. They already have in the past. And so, and they did it in defense of U.S. territory, or basically U.S. servicemen at the end of World War II when the U.S. attacked Japan. But these drone attacks here recently on Russian territory have now raised the temperature just a little bit more. And Mr. Putin's making it clear that they will defend Russian territory at all costs.
It's interesting you pointed out that what he said, we will not be the first. You're saying that he is referring to the U.S. using atomic weapons in World War II. Therefore, if Russia used them now, they would not be the first. Is that how you're reading this?
Yes, and that seems to be what other articles are kind of interpreting what he's saying there. That if there is a war that breaks out because of nuclear weapons, we won't be the first to have used weapons. The U.S. has already done it, and they've done it in defense of their own military. And so...
But it's the case, Doc, then he's not ruling out a first strike.
No. He's saying we have these, well, we know what they're for. Well, what they're for right now is to keep the other guy from hitting us with a nuclear missile. And he means specifically the United States there. The only thing that keeps the West from nuking Russia right now is the fact that Russia has nukes, right?
Yes.
So that's why he's saying this is our first line of defense here. The one thing that keeps us from being struck with a nuclear weapon is the fact that we have nuclear weapons. And if we get attacked, we are going to strike back.
He also said something like, I'm not crazy. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Right, because here lately they've been calling Putin, he's a madman, he's out of his mind, his mental capacities have gone down. No, he's making it very clear, we're not crazy, we know what we're doing, and we're going to use the tools that we have available to us to defend Russia. Because Russia now is directly under attack. We've had these series of drone strikes that have occurred over the past few days that have come within several hundred kilometers of Moscow. Now things are starting to heat up in a unique way. And as I mentioned on the Godcast yesterday, the fact that these drone attacks are happening are the very reason why Russia went into Ukraine in the first place, to prevent these kinds of things from happening on Russian soil. And now they're happening.